And we're back once again, only on it's Last Call. Last Call of the Alcohol, only on the lastcallpodcast.com. And join me here once again. Well, this time around, he's back, but we're talking some college football because, as he's telling me, hey, everything college football goes through one state. You know what it is. I know what it is. The world knows what it is. And he is correct. So joining me here from Into the Lab Podcast, I give you college football insider, aficionado, and even draft guru. I give you Ernest Silva. So, Ernest, let's start off here with the big question. And I know it's kind of bothers you because you're sort of like the little stepbrother. Is this Texas A&M's year to win the whole thing? They have the quarterback, they have the defense, they have an offensive line, they have running backs injured for a bit. But when you look at this Texas A&M team, is this probably the most complete team you've seen in a long time from them?
Oh, 100%. 100% the team that nobody thought was going to be the most versatile and Swiss Army knife team that you'd see in Texas A&M history. I think this is one of the best teams I've ever fielded, in my personal opinion. It doesn't matter how the game is played; it's either going to be high scoring or a grit on the line. A&M has proven this year, time and time again, that they're the team to beat right now in the SEC, complete overall, in my opinion. I think A&M has a gauntlet of a schedule coming up, which I know we'll talk about. But yeah, I think right now they've shown to be the best complete SEC team so far this year.
What's your strength? Like if somebody had to pin it down to you and say, all right, is it their defense? Is it the offense? Like for you, what is the strength of this team?
For me, it's two things. One, the intangibles you really can't teach, which is the line. They've controlled the line of scrimmage 72% of snaps, which when you do that, you win football games. And then the other part is play calling. They've had play callings matched up against the defense on the offensive side of the ball in a positive side for 62% of the time. And on the defensive side of the ball, they've lined up with the right men in the right locations. The zone play has been fantastic this year. And the zone just can't lose. They win 67% of those battles when the zone is in place. So, and that's in a plus minus yardage situation at 6.5. So, just to kind of put it down to simpler terms, when you're lined up in a zone, that's usually second, third down for Texas A&M. They are playing to get 6.5 yards or less. They are winning that battle 62% of the time, which means that they are keeping the offense in front of them, even without playing man to man, which is very hard to do at college, especially with spread offenses and some of the offenses they played, which is why they've struggled in some higher game situations where teams have gone into like a shootout with them. But you can see that Texas A&M is playing really good football from a coach's standpoint and just literally winning the line. The test is going to be in the next 4 or 5 games for them. This is the gauntlet of their schedule where you get against superior SEC teams, including UT.
Let's talk about the line. I've read that no hyperbole. They actually have 4 guys on this offensive line. You look and go, yeah, they're NFL caliber. It starts with, of course, the right now Sporting News mid-season All-American. That is the huge offensive guard Armaj Reed Adams. Left tackle Trey Zune is getting a lot of love from a lot of scouts. Chase Besantis, a lot of people think if he comes out, he will be drafted, but he might stay. And then we're not even talking about Demetrius Crownover, who has done a serviceable and good job at right tackle. How much does it help whoever, whether it's the running game, whether it's the passing game, but they have 4 offensive linemen alone who you look and go, yeah, they're good enough, to be basically handle almost anybody in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, you would wish the Houston Texans had them instead of the line they have currently, right? Not to throw on pro football there, but I think a lot of people would prefer it. They've been spectacular. Each of these linemen have either played to their potential or risen above their potential as far as the top 200 linemen in the national overall standings for offensive tackles, offensive guards. The A&M guard and tackle average has risen 8.5 spots, which means that they're playing above their preseason ranking, and they're playing above their heads really right now, which sometimes is a good thing, but and sometimes a bad thing. But in this instance, it's a very good thing. That means A&M is controlling the line of scrimmage. If you look at some of the recent games, right, you're noticing that the A gap, the C gap, and the D gap all have holes that are allowing the backs to get through them, and you have easy reads for the quarterback to throw windows through. That's simple offense where you don't have to worry about the intangibles, which I know I kind of alluded to in my first segment, but you can't really teach that. You're just kind of utilizing your natural basis, and these grown men are controlling that line of scrimmage. And as long as they can keep doing that, A&M is going to have a spectacular shot to continue winning big games.
Did you see Marcel Reed being this good? I mean, I know last year he flashed at times, and you looked and went, okay, well, he might have something here. This year, he's been just balling after big games, 15 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. We saw him in shootout wins against Notre Dame, where he was just lights out. We saw, even in games against Auburn and Mississippi State and Florida, where if he had to make a big pass, he made a big pass. Is this the guy that Texas A&M can go, yeah, he is right now as good as anybody in the SEC?
Arguably, yes. Honestly, SEC quarterback play has been really up and down for many of the quarterbacks, and for Reed himself, you've seen him do this at a high clip, right? 15 touchdowns, 4 picks for the year. He's doing it efficiently. He's gone into juggernaut battles where he's out shooting opponents like against Notre Dame and Arkansas, and doing it where he's efficient, where he has to pull out wins like he did against Auburn. I like what Reed does to the table, brings to the table. He's absolutely a dual threat quarterback, and he's dynamic. And a lot of teams, a lot of good pro defensive college football teams have trouble with mobile quarterbacks at the college level because the guys are just not as fast and they're not as efficient going up and down the field as they are going side to side. So, did I see flashes of this last year? Absolutely. Did I expect him to make another leap this year? Probably from our preseason conversation, people are going to be like, no, Ernest, you didn't, if you follow along. And I did not. I did not expect him to have what I'm going to call probably another jump to his level of play, where it jumps him up to possibly a top 3 quarterback in the nation right now.
So here's the X question. When does Le'Veon Moss get healthy? They said significant time. He missed the Arkansas game. And the offense didn't need him, but it was still, you looking going, okay, well, as you mentioned, Missouri's next in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, this Saturday. Then it's on to Missouri, at Missouri, then South Carolina, then you get a break at Samford, and then at Texas, the final game, November 28th. If you're Mike Elko, like, I know you don't want to rush this kid, but you also want him ready. So, like, if you're Texas A&M, when do you hope he gets back on the field realistically?
Well, I would hope that he's one of the reasons why they got fined for faking injuries, right? Like, he's back on the field this weekend. I don't think that's going to happen. My presumptive thought is if he is not 100%, you're not playing him. So far, won games that you probably shouldn't, and you've won games that you absolutely should by playing the team that you have. Eventually, you're going to need him. You're going to need him against teams like Texas, where you're going to be in a dogfight. You're going to want everybody 100% though. And you don't want anybody getting hurt. In my opinion, the reason I keep bringing up the Texas game is because that is such a difficult game to play and win. Even if going to Death Valley is on the schedule, that's probably the second most difficult game they have. If you look at their schedule now, you have Mizzou, which is going to be a crazy game as Mizzou's playing out of their minds as well. And for South Carolina, they're both traveling to Kyle Field, and then you have the big game against Texas. So for me, it's LSU, Texas, and that's your season for A&M. You can get past those 2 games, you're winning this season, and you're in the college football playoffs by far, and you're hoping for a national championship. So for me, that is the gauntlet. If that is going to be what you do, and you can get through Mizzou and LSU without having him, and he's 100% playing in your gimme games, have him come back, and then have him really be ready for Texas. That would be my recommendation if he's not 100% yet.
Can they do it? Can they run? In your opinion, when you look, and as you said, you've talked about they make big plays when they need to. The defense has some studs in Will Lee, the third. They got Cassius Howell, who was playing out of his mind. Tarion York. They got Dalton Brooks. When you factor that with the offense, is this the team you can look and go, man, they might run the table, even in an SEC, which every game seems to be a rock fight? Is it safe to say that they actually have a chance this year?
They have the best shot in the world if they can get past a very upset LSU team this weekend. Going to Death Valley against an LSU team with a chip on their shoulder, really pissed off about losing last week. That is going to be your test. If LSU controls the game at home like they usually do, unlike last week or their last game, I expect A&M to start to run the table. Yes, Mizzou is great; they're playing out of their minds. A&M is playing greater and out of their minds. Then it comes down to Texas. That game could be massive, especially if both teams are on a streak. If Texas gets to their gauntlet, that's going to be a major clash Thanksgiving time, and that is it right there. My probability on them running the table is going to be 75% right now. I am about 75% sure A&M finds themselves in the SEC championship and into the college football playoffs, looking to get a national title.
So what's the weakness? Because every team's trying to figure out the weakness, and it's not that they will choke in close games, because they showed against Notre Dame and Arkansas. Look, when it gets nitty gritty time, we can still pull it out. It's not the firepower, they have that. It's not the defense, they've shown they have that at times. So what is the weakness right now if you're going, okay, this is how we're going to exploit Texas A&M, but you go, yeah, this is it. This is how we're going to beat them.
Yeah, they on offense, there's not a terrible weakness out there where you can exploit them. I think a big one is the running back pass blocking situation. So rushing or blitzing 1 to 2 more players at the line, that makes you play man to man more against A&M. But they have a hard time keeping up with that. The timeline for A&M's offense seems to decrease by about a half second, and any second counts against a mobile quarterback. And so if you can get him scrambling, and if you get Reed on the go, he's not quite as accurate. And so I would hope that you're trying to contain him, right? Because you don't want to break it away. But if you can get him moving faster than is needed before wideouts get out of their break, then that is one thing on offense you can exploit. It's a small exploit. Exploit's probably a harsh word. On defense, the left side of the line has some issues. There's some lingering issues as far as injuries as well. So on the weak side offensive part of the lines, you're going to see a lot of teams probably start running that way, especially with longer fields. A longer tail will allow A&M to have to play more guys that way and shift, which is going to allow more gaps and slant routes to be allowed on the left side. So I expect teams to try to manipulate the defense more, considering the depth lack there with 4 injuries on the left side of the defense right now, which is just key to what those players play. Not so much that they're going to see that in the depth chart, but just where those position players come in that rotation. So they're a little lax there, which is a small exploit again. Again, A&M's playing pretty complete football. This is probably one of the most complete teams in the NCAA football program right now.
We go to Texas, and they're not doing bad. That's this should be paraphrased. They're not doing bad. They are 5-2. At the same time, there's just a lot of things that are sort of wonky, and everybody's trying to figure out how to fix it. Let's start with the offense. What the hell is going on? Why is this offense struggling? And why is it that it seems like they can't get out of their own way? Like when you only put up 16 points in overtime against Kentucky, there's probably people who are like, okay, look, we're not panicking, but kind of getting very, very, very nervous. So, Ernest, you're a resident Texas expert. What the hell is going on?
So I'm not going to disagree that there's something crazy going on, but I think it all revolves around Arch. When it comes to Texas, he is not making the decisions he was last year, and it's been a little different for him under center and playing in Sark's offense that he particularly created just for Arch. And so I'm intrigued to see what Sark is going to be doing. There are throws that Arch should be making that he's not. There's throws that I'm just like, wow, where has that been the whole game? And that's the mind puzzling part, because if you compare his mechanics, Arch is throwing a very different ball and a very different way than he was last season. And I'm not sure if they changed it in the offseason. I'm not sure if there was something in the offensive scheme they wanted him to do with his footwork. He is not crisp. He is taking an extra step on his backdrop and is causing an extra second delay on the throw. It's just off. And I tried to go study some Quinn Ewers tape to go see if his footwork mimics. It doesn't. I tried to see where his mechanic is basically twisting about 35 degrees more on his throw, which makes me think that he has a shoulder injury somewhere in there, or at least a stinger that continues to bother him, and he's overcompensating for it, which could be more issues down the line. But that's my thought process on it. The wideouts on Texas also have not taken a step up. Wingo has been a particularly big disappointment to me. He was supposed to take that next leap. He's supposed to be the next guy up, be the number one wideout. He's kind of either plateaued or even kind of regressed a little bit. He's dropped many. I think he's up to 8 drops. The Texas offense just sputters when Weiser's not in the game. And Weiser has been such a breath of fresh air. He has taken a small leap in his game, which we all expected him to. And the defense and special teams of Texas has been phenomenal. The defense has held teams in check like they should. Texas just has to get out of its own way and score 24 points to win the game. Like, that's been the story. I don't want to read too much into Kentucky, but I am going to say the offense looks funky. And the only reason I'm not going to read too much into it is because we know Georgia won at Kentucky last year 13-12. Like, it is a tough place to play at Kentucky. That is not an easy game. That's not an easy win. And for the SEC, that's like a rite of passage. You must go to Kentucky and win a tough one. Like, that is everything. So I'm not going to overreact to that game. Although if the offense just played 25% better, that game's a blowout. It's probably 27-12. Texas wins this, and we're not even talking anything. But because they struggled and it took a goal line stand, Texas wins by an overtime field goal.
Is this offensive line good enough? I mean, that's what I've heard, but they have one guy who's an NFL caliber, one who might be, and then the rest are just guys. And look, they lost a lot of talent. We talked about the preseason, like, hey, crap, Texas lost way too many people to just automatically throw in there. How much of this is it's DJ Campbell, it's Trevor Goodsby sometimes, if the other 3 guys are just average?
That's the whole line. It's the whole line, in my opinion. They don't get much time. I'm not going to put excuses for Arch. If you're going to be an elite quarterback, act like an elite quarterback, have the name, you should be playing elite football. But it is true that he's not getting a ton of time. If you put him behind the A&M line, Arch may be having a stud year as well. But the offensive line, you and I talked about it before the preseason. I kind of downplayed the inexperience. You kind of said that's going to come back, Ernest. That's 9 new faces in the offense. That's 13 new faces in the rotation. That's a lot of new faces. I agree with you now. You can see the green nature of some of those offensive linemen. You've seen Arch take punishment for it. Like, there has not been enough preparation for these big guys up front. But what I can say is that when it comes to the run blocking scheme, which we all know is an easier scheme to adapt to, they have adapted. You've seen the progression of it. We couldn't run the football to save our lives. The pass blocking schemes are much more difficult, and it takes much more repetition. So we're going to have to see how these guys get tougher, get more experience. But absolutely an Achilles heel right now is the offensive line protecting Arch long enough for wideouts to get out of their break, which why I'm scratching my head as to why we haven't called more screenplays this year and called more go routes for Arch on those screenplays. Just mind-boggling. But I think Sark knows what he's doing, because he always has on the offensive end. And we're going to see what happens. But it has been baffling a bit.
How much of the schedule worry you now? It's next game is Mississippi State, which, yeah, they're 4-3, but you look and it's like, well, they lost to Florida by 2 points. They lost to Tennessee in overtime. They kept it close a bit against Texas A&M. Like, this is not your same, Mississippi State from last year that you looked and went, okay, we're going to put up 40 and we'll just destroy them. And then, oh, by the way, after that, it's a Vandy team, which is very physical, at Georgia, Arkansas, and at Texas A&M. Like, how much do you look at the schedule and go, ew. We might finish 1-4 down the stretch?
They could. This is what Texas football is all about. I mean, this is what football in Texas is all about, is about these matchups. Like, we're going to go to Mississippi State and see Texas go out there and either play a really good game and win a tough game on the road, or they're going to get slapped around and they're going to get exploited. Like, this is going to be one or the other. It's not going to be a middle. I don't think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be who had the better play calling and design, and there's not going to be a ton of alterations to the play calling, in my opinion, unless it's just some crazy situations happen, special team gets involved, those kind of things. Vanderbilt, I think, is the game that's going to be telling. if Vandy goes up a couple of rankings, or Vandy's at number 10 when that game happens, that's going to be a game. That's going to be back in Austin. You make a homestand, middle of the SEC run, your gauntlet of the schedule, and you show everybody you mean business. You get 2 weeks to prepare for Georgia at that point, and you already know everybody's got that game circled to be watching. It's Texas, Georgia. They haven't been watching Texas football quite intensely since the Ohio State game. And that's going to be the big national game everybody watches if Texas is on a winning streak. And then you get this rivalry matchup against Arkansas, which we all have seen. Arkansas has scored points. So if you're Texas, you're going to have to keep up with Arkansas. That's a game that's not an easy check mark on the schedule either. And then the game I've already talked about with A&M, Texas A&M. That's a who knows what the hell happens coin flip, because both these programs hate each other. Both these programs play their absolute best football against one another, and both of them want to play spoiler if the others are having a streak. And that could be a very interesting matchup depending on how the season plays out. If both teams have won the entirety of their schedules, that could be a top 10 matchup between A&M and Texas. If both teams have only lost one through that schedule, this would be a top team matchup, where it's like a 12-15 matchup between A&M and Texas. I'm intrigued to see how these teams progress. The offense has to get it going for Texas, because Georgia, Arkansas, Vandy, A&M, they're all scoring points. They're all probably scoring more than 24 points. That's not giving my defense enough credit. I think my defense will do fantastic. I think they'll create turnovers. But the amount of times that the Texas offense has given the ball back to offenses is what I worry about. If Texas A&M ends up getting 8-9 possessions in this game, they're going to score 24 points, and the rest of them too. So that's the worry, right? If Texas offense can keep control of the clock, limit the other teams to 5 to 6 possessions, you got a chance against any team. But you have to do that on defense, and your offense has to play a pretty efficient game, because you're only going to get 5 or 6 back.
Earlier this week, Sark was asked, "Hey, are you going to give up play calling?" And he defiantly said no. When he took this job, that was part of the appeal, that he gets to call the plays. He's in charge of the offense. He is Sean McVay, Andy Reid, and that's his offense. He's going to call it, and you do what he says. Is that wise, though? I mean, Kyle Flood has had experience being an offensive coordinator for other programs. He's worked with other quarterbacks. When you see that it's not working with Arch, should it be time for Sark to go, yeah, you know what? Maybe I just need to go back to either use Kyle a lot more or change the playbook, because this ain't working. Something is wrong in Denmark here.
Yeah, I think it should stay with Sark as they win. I know that's tough because they haven't looked great on offense. I get that. I worry about the offense in certain situations because it's just not the right play call. And I've said that a couple of times. Sark has deserved the respect to have the play calling done. But I also think that maybe sometimes you got to get up to the booth and see the game from a different angle too. So I hope Sark is going to try new aspects of seeing things. I'm going to give him the benefit, though. He has been a known offensive god for most of college football during his years as a coach. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he continues forward and he changes it around. But even I have some head scratchers as to why there's not a screen. Why is there not motion plays here? Why are we one-dimensional with run, pass, pass, run, pass, pass? Like it's been mind-boggling against some simple defenses. So I'm hoping it has nothing to do with the development of Arch, the development of IQ play from the players, and that it's just him getting deep into his playbook now, and we're going to start getting the real offense. And I think the real offense needs to stand up and start appearing here, or you're going to be in trouble.
After their non-conference schedule, everybody looked at SMU and wrote them off. All right, you're done. You guys aren't going to, you're not going to college football playoffs. And then after 3 more games, now all of a sudden it's like, well, this is the ACC. I guess you guys could get into the playoffs. This is the wildest, wackiest ACC we've seen. It's up is down, north is south, and SMU is undefeated right now, 3-0 in ACC play. their toughest games are going to be at home. It's going to be Miami and Louisville both come to Gerald J. Ford Stadium in University Park, Texas. Outside of that, it is at Wake Forest, at Boston College, at Cal. Is it crazy to think that, especially in this year, SMU could all of a sudden win all 5 games and find itself in the ACC championship game?
I don't think that's crazy. I think it's right on the money. And matter of fact, I might put money on it because SMU has played good football this year. You and I actually talked about SMU before the year started, so I want to give us credit because we both said SMU could have a really good year this year, and run the table. And we said that they had good returners coming back. They had a strong lineup. They had some upperclassmen. I was going to be enjoying watching some of the early on games. Was shocked by a couple of losses. But here we are, and they're in third place in the ACC. Georgia Tech ahead of them, right? The other school off the top of my head escapes me.
Virginia,
But
yeah.
Virginia, that's right, Virginia. And so SMU, I mean, all said and done, right? Like SMU has played good football this year, and when you think about what they have in front of them, right? Miami, who has kind of struggled as of late, who took a big loss, they're on their schedule. They take them on at home. I think you just said that, but Louisville as well take them on at home. Cal's an interesting matchup. That might be a tough game, but this is the statement of their game. They could probably win both of those games. They have enough offense. They do enough on defense. And SMU could run the table and be the ACC. I think it's a high probability chance. I'm probably going to go put some money on it today.
Here's what worries me. Against TCU, Josh Hoover completed 22 of 40 passes, 379 yards, 5 touchdowns, in a 35-24 loss. Against Baylor with Sawyer Robertson, well, once again, Baylor. Sawyer threw 34 for 50, 440 yards, 4 touchdowns, as they dropped a heartbreaking 48-45 loss. When this defense plays any good quarterbacks, they get torched. And now you're going to be facing Carson Beck down in Miami, and that whole explosive offense. And oh, by the way, then there's Miller Moss and Chris Bell, the duo against Louisville. So you're Rhett Lashley. Is there anything you can do to fix this defense, or are you just going, okay, please just let's try to hold them under 28 points. Just 28 points, and I'll be happy. Let's not get into another shootout.
The big thing about the SMU defense is it's going to be very much dependent on turnovers. Can we get enough turnovers in the game to make a difference? They can't stop a nosebleed on the run. They struggle against the pass, and they struggle against bad offenses. So you're absolutely hitting the money on the head, right? But when they create more turnovers in the other defense, when they're positive on that side, they're undefeated. They rely on that to give more reps to the SMU offense. And the SMU offense has continued to take advantage of it. So when I said earlier that the offense is good enough to run with anybody and the defense does enough, the enough part is the turnover battle. That's what they do. And then special teams as well has been spectacular this year.
So is there any help they can do? I mean, when you look at SMU, is there anybody that they can try to either replace, put in, anybody for that defense? Because as we said, it's both Baylor and TCU. They just got into a shootout, and it was last person who had the ball wins. So if you can't get turnovers, is there anybody that Rhett Lashley can turn to and go, yep, we'll try you. We'll put you in. Hey, you wherever you are, just somebody get me a stop or get me, a sack or get me something that, can get a defense off before we score.
I mean, they run a multi-defensive set, so they're technically rolling in linebackers and defensive backs between defensive units and sets. They switch between a 3-4-4-3 box. They never stay completely consistent. So it's hard for me to say if you interchange a person, they're going to change it up. Maybe not switching so much might help the defense. They tend to outthink themselves, in my opinion. I think the defense stayed in one or two defensive scheme sets, interchange between those. I think that would be good. I guess they call it situational football in SMU. Like the defensive coordinator, I forget his name, but he's known to be kind of a try all things guy, famous guy for his multi-defense set. But I really expect SMU to against bigger programs match up defensively, and in those defensive sets, if they can be consistent and play well consistently on a one or two defensive set scheme, then maybe they have some more consistency, some more stops, they pull off some upsets, get more turnovers because they're playing better football. Simpler is better when it comes to playing better teams on the defensive side because you're prone to make more mistakes as you switch things up. The mind goes crazy against better teams. So we'll have to see how they handle the pressure.
You hear the whispers that Arkansas is going to make a big run at Rhett Lashley. Okay, he's an Arkansas boy. He went to Arkansas, played quarterback. They're going to offer the big check. And he also knows they have a Florida job's open. Man, they'd love to have, a head coach here. How does he keep everybody just focused? Because you have to figure that, he's going to be a name that Penn State, that Florida, that Arkansas are all going to come. They're all going to offer big money. And we've seen it before when coaches all of a sudden get, in the rumor bill, it's like, when teams start, players start wondering, is this guy going to leave? The program sort of flounders. When do you expect Rhett Lashley to come out and just go, I am staying at SMU no matter what?
Signed a small extension in 23, signed another extension in 24. I expect him to sign another extension in 26. Rhett Lashley to me bleeds SMU, and he's trying to win something big here, whether it's a title and a national championship or it's a title and a football playoffs berth or something. He's trying to make a statement and a staple at SMU, but like everybody and like most coaches, you want to be a part of that big program and bring winning football back to it. Arkansas is one of those programs. I would see Arkansas as a rival competitor for Rhett Lashley's job. I would see a couple others who might be a little bit more enticing. Would Florida might make a run at Rhett Lashley and say, hey, you bring winning football with you. We need that, right? And just you can name them. And they come out. Now, if I'm Rhett Lashley, what am I doing? I'm building my program and I'm staying there for a decade, right? At least 8 to 10 years. I mean, build that program up, win some games, get some accolades, and then move on and extend your legacy. That would be what I would do. But Rhett, I don't know. I don't see Rhett leaving yet. I think he still has at least 3-4 more years before he's like, okay, next chapter.
Speaking of the next chapter, first 6 games, everything was going well for Joey McGuire and Texas Tech. They were rolling. That defense was humming along. They were beating up people. They went into Utah and just physically beat them up 34-10. They go into Houston. At Houston, beat them up 35-11. They go to Kansas, beat them up also 42-17. And then last week at Arizona State, everything went to hell. Darren Morton's was not able to play. They dropped 26-22. And all of a sudden they went from, yes, we are hosting the Big 12 championship to, oh crap, we're on the outside looking in. What went wrong? Is it simply just a quarterback got hurt, or were there other things when you look at Texas Tech and go, no matter how much money you have, there was always going to be a little problem here, problem there, but the teams are going to take advantage of?
It was just the quarterback situation. I mean, the defense played fine. ASU is a good football program. They were ranked to start the year. They had a couple of losses that were uncharacteristic. I do think that Texas Tech can make it get right again by moving the offense more towards new quarterback play. Or I don't know what. Yeah, I mean, do you have the latest on the quarterback situation in Tech?
It's still day to day. I mean, that's what they're saying. But nobody's sure. They're keeping it close to the vest. I mean, we're not even sure how. I kept thinking that after the Utah game, that's when Darren Morton was like, "Oh crap, he might be done." And I mean, for the season, like he was in that much pain. So we're still trying to figure out. It's Oklahoma State, so you figure, okay, we should be able to win with the backup. But it's all of a sudden Kansas State looks like a bit of a threat, and then November 8th, BYU. So
hopefully Morton can come back and be fine. You got to rely on that run game. Big 12 football is not exactly a defensive powerhouse, right? So if you can run the ball well in the Big 12, you won't do well for you in the college football playoffs if Morton's not healthy. But I do think it's just simply a quarterback issue. The quarterback, Morton has done wonderful this year, play managing and game managing through the field, clock management. I mean, you saw him and doing things that probably wouldn't see a freshman doing, and it's frustrating when he's thrown 2 picks in 2 games and he doesn't take care of the ball either against defenses that are not exactly known to be takeaway heavy. So to me, watching that game, and again, you know me, I'm not a huge Texas Tech insider, but watching the game, to me, the flow of the game, the offensive timing issues, that comes back from the quarterback. And I think that's exactly what it is, which puts the defense in bad spots. And you saw it against ASU. The flow of the game was all ASU. That was exactly what they wanted, the tempo they wanted, the time of possession they wanted. And Tech falls. And that you don't realize how big of an issue it is until it's an issue, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully Morton is back. Like I hope he's back this week. I didn't think it was that big of an injury. Hopefully he's back this week and this is just water under the bridge.
Because how much pressure is there on them to run the table? Because you could argue this is like Texas A&M. This is the most talent they've had. They got 2 possible first round draft picks at the edge: Romelio Height and David Bailey. They got another NFL caliber defensive lineman, Lee Hunter. You've got Jacob Rodriguez patrolling the middle. Morton's, brought him in. He could be out of here because he's a senior. You have Terrence Carter Jr. He could go into the NFL draft. Like, for a team that they put all the money eggs in the basket. They handed out big NIL deals. They got some stud players to come in. All of them are either juniors or seniors. How much is this sort of like win now mentality?
I think you're in a good place if you're Tech. I mean, your biggest game is going to be BYU, barring any sort of major collapse by BYU. And the rest of the teams are beatable. Like, you have a very good. You're going to be the best team on the field besides maybe that BYU game, and even then, I think they're the best team on the field. So, I think you can come out of the Big 12 as champions and run the table and hope for some key losses and feel good about yourself and getting a chance at the college football playoffs. Um, I'm not as worried about Texas Tech as I would be like A&M and Texas in the gauntlet of the SEC. Big 12 is not the SEC. So Texas Tech has a football team that would probably be middle to top tier in the SEC. That's how good I think they are. So I would say that win your games that you're supposed to, play a good game against BYU, win the Big 12 championship, and find yourselves in the playoffs. That's the goal still.
Oklahoma State, Kansas State, BYU, UCF, West Virginia. We know BYU is going to be the game where it's like, okay, that's going to be the rock and sock and rock fight. What other game on this schedule do you look at and go, if they don't show up, if they go half-assed, this could be like the game where we go, we might be in trouble.
And which game are you talking about?
Out of all the games outside of BU, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, UCF, West Virginia, is there any other game outside of BU that they have to look and go, if we don't take them seriously, we're in deep trouble?
Probably UCF. That's tough. Going to West Virginia and Kansas State are usually not walks in the park. Kansas State is known to play upset against ranked programs, but UCF is always a tough outing, even at home. I don't know if that's their homecoming game or not. If it is, and just forget what I just said because they'll win their homecoming game. But UCF has a strong core. I know they're going to go through. They're going through a transition year. But there's always that one funky game in the Big 12. That one funky game in the Big 12 that you're kind of like, I should have thought about this as I was looking through the schedule. UCF Texas Tech is one of those. And so I would circle that game and say that's a possible spoiler. Take the spread on the UCF side.
If Texas A&M is what we expected, if Texas Tech was also what we expected, safe to say that the Houston Cougars, this is one of those Cinderella stories we talk about in college football, where last year they were not that good. Willie Fritz came in; they were 4-8, 3-6 in the Big 12. A lot of teams use them as a stepping stone. And with a quarterback who basically got run out of town in Texas A&M and Connor Wegman, they're 6-1. They're 3-1 in the Big 12, and you start looking, going, wait a minute, all right, hey, we're ahead of schedule. How shocked are you that Houston is this good?
Houston is kind of wild for this season. And I'm happy to see it, right? I'm happy to see it. We talked about Houston to start the year, the loss of Cam Ward and what that would be like. And here we are, right? Like Houston didn't miss a beat. And they played a great game against Arizona. They took care of business against Oklahoma State. The one loss was against Texas Tech, and Texas Tech showed they were good in that game. Took care of business against the other teams. Like Houston has been great this year. I think the big piece to this is going to Arizona State this week after Arizona State's on a high from beating Tech. Taking care of business on the road, showing you're that powerhouse, and then going down the rest of the Big 12 schedule saying, here, take care of this team, take care of this team, take care of this team. You know, you have the UCF game there, the TCU game there, and then end of the year, and Baylor could play spoilers here. Baylor would be your game that you'd be watching and circling, saying, this is that game, this is that weird game. Houston going to Baylor because Baylor's maybe on a new coach, maybe on a new mission there, maybe trying to prove something to end the year and playing upset for Houston. So, but congrats to Houston on getting through what they're probably going to consider their gauntlet of a schedule, and ending their gauntlet at Arizona State. They get a win this week. That's what it was all about.
Is Connor Wegman probably one of the best feel-good stories? Like he lost his job due to injuries over at Texas A&M. He was a guy who many people say, oh, he's a bust. He's not that good. Transfers over, and he's been the reason. He's been the guy to help, drive the engine that is the Houston Cougars. How happy are you for a guy who had a lot of hype in Texas A&M, injuries, just other things plagued him, and now he has his second chance at Houston?
No lie, 15 touchdowns, right? 4 interceptions on the year. He has looked, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I was reading my other notes. 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the year. Has looked phenomenal. He is an absolute feel-good story. I mean, any Texas quarterback who's playing above his head and does wonders, right, from the college football days to the pros, is always a strong follow. And I'm glad to see him find success and have a team that believes in him. Sometimes you just need to put on a different jersey and the feeling is different and you're the guy again. And I know that feeling of losing your spot and having to either play backup and figure it out or go play for a different team and show what your worth is. Been there, done that. And for him, to see him running in this offense, to see him getting the trust factor in play calling, he's one of only 12 Division I quarterbacks who was allowed to call their audibles at the line. And so that's a true statement going into last week. I think a couple quarterbacks started last week for different programs, but before that, it was just 12. And so that is a huge testament to his IQ on the field, and the trust the coaching staff has in him. And that shows poise and commitment to him being very prosperous at the next level too. So let's see this run happen. Would love to see Houston make a run out of it. They'll need some key losses. They'll need some help to get up into college football playoff conversations for me. But yeah, really feel good story. Long-winded way of saying yes, he's absolutely feel good story.
Again, what should the realistic expectations? It's at Arizona State this weekend. Then they host West Virginia. Then at UCF, and then the next 2 games, probably a lot of shootouts. TCU at Houston, and then Baylor at Waco, a rivalry game. So pie in the sky, there's people in Houston. There's probably a small amount, but there's pie in the sky going, we're going to win all 5 games, 11-1. We're going to the Big 12 championship. Woo-hoo! I'm guessing, in his heart of hearts, Willie Fritz is a little more, okay, this is probably more realistic. What is the realistic? Like, for it to be a successful season and not end on a sour note, what should a realistic expectation of the next 5 games be?
I think high in the sky, if they win out, they go to the Big 12 championship. That's the big, hey, that is the winning goal of the entire season, right? That's your whole season. Realistically, they probably lose this weekend. Not because they didn't try or because it's already written. It's because Arizona State's probably a better overall team right now, and they're going to be prepping for both these teams. They prep for Tech. They're going to prep for Houston. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping they go in and face, slap and get everybody out of the way against Arizona State, and they win this weekend. Tough place to play. Sun Devil Stadium is a tough place to play. And so I think they lose one more. I think they lose either that Baylor game or they lose another cupcake game that they don't, whether it's against West Virginia or another team. Just because they can play down to their competition. That is Houston football this year. Is they start off rough sometimes, play down the competition, and then break away in the game, or play up to their competition. It's a good problem to have. And so I expect one of those two things to happen in one of these games, and hopefully not, but it's very possible that it does. So probably realistically, they lose two more.
Let's talk about TCU. On some levels, it's they looked great in the offense. North Carolina, SMU, Colorado, Baylor, they're putting up points. Josh Hoover is quietly showing he might be one of the top 5 best quarterback prospects in college football. He can sling it. On the downside, this defense can't stop a freaking cold. They've given up on average 28 points, including 41 against Kansas State, 36 against Baylor, 27 against Arizona State, and even 24 against SMU. How frustrating is it for Sonny Dykes right now that the offense is there, but the defense is just you can't trust them against a good offense?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because when it comes sorry for the background. When it comes to the TCU football program, right? Can you repeat your question at the last part, Chris Connor?
How tough is it that he has the offense, but the defense is just it's not there. They have some parts, but they can't stop a cold at times.
It's the truth. Yeah, TCU gets in these spells where they fall to the subject of the game. I think it has a lot to do with experience in the play calling side of things. You see them kind of snowball into their efforts of not being able to keep up defensively. If you watch the game against Colorado even, and the game against Baylor in particular, in those two games, you saw Colorado kind of go on a run, right? They scored 21 straight in that game. You saw in the Baylor game, they couldn't stop a nosebleed, right? You saw how difficult that was for them to keep up. And Baylor is not some sort of stout powerhouse, right? They score points, but not a stout powerhouse. And so TCU, in the limited time I have with TCU, because I don't really have a huge insight with TCU, but in limited time watching them, they struggle primarily outside the hashes. They have a hard time staying in front of wide receivers. Their speed's an issue. And they do not win very much on the line. If I had to go to my stats, I'm just kind of pulling it up on the side. When it comes to their stats, I see that they lose the line of scrimmage 59% of the time on run schemes, and they lose it on the passing schemes 52% of the time. So kind of middle of the pack when it comes to averages. But again, if line play is bad and you're not able to contain, you won't stop anybody. And at times when they get on these runs and they spiral, you see teams score major amount of points. It's going to take a revamp of how first off, recruiting, right? We've seen all these major programs go through recruiting efforts when it comes to NIL, and TCU is a little behind the times. They don't have those major sponsors. You haven't seen them gather those big names off recruiting platforms. And so we're going to have to start there and then go to your play calling schemes for those players. So that's what my recommendation would be for TCU.
Next game is at West Virginia. And then it's November to remember, either good or bad. It's going to be Iowa State, at BYU, at Houston, and then their final game against Cincinnati. They're in one way, they could probably still run the table. They have the quarterback. And if you have the quarterback, that's almost half the battle. You can just put up points. And then all of a sudden you go, well, wait a minute. BYU then might have 2 losses. Hey, we can knock Cincinnati. They'll give them a loss. Hey, Texas Tech and Arizona State, they might pick up a loss here and there. We'll give Houston a loss, Arizona State a loss. I mean, you're looking going, we can do this. We can run the table.
It's a lot of help.
I know, it's a lot of help. Is Josh Hoover in the offense good enough? I mean,
they are good enough.
I see him play well, but are they good enough where they can just go in shootouts all 5 games?
They are good enough to do that. You need a lot of help for that to happen, and the defense is not good enough. Like it's just not. And that's a lot of help that you're asking for. You're asking for you to show up against Houston, and I don't know if you win that game. You're asking to show up against BYU and do enough on defense to win that game. I don't know if that's enough. Again, head scratcher with West Virginia. Those are tough games. Iowa State's probably a win. Probably play upset against Cincinnati at home. Final game of the year. I tip my hat to TCU and the offense getting it done. So those are the games I'm not worried about. But the other ones are so difficult that I would probably say it's like a 3% chance your scenario bakes out. Three. I'm going to give it three just because the offense and the quarterback play is so good.
Dave Aranda going into either you love him or you hate him. And look, in 2021, he was coming up just aces. 12, they were 12-2. They won, they won the Sugar Bowl. They were the Big 12 champion. He couldn't miss. He was, on cloud nine. And Blake Shapen, that offense just cared. That was the story. Since then, 6-7, 3-9, 8-5. Now they're 4-3, and there's people pissed because, oh my God, you're wasting Sawyer Robertson. You have the quarterback. You guys can't win any close games. How the hell is this happening here? So let me ask you this: if things start going sideways, if Baylor goes 6-7 or 7-6, could Dave Aranda get fired?
Not crazy to say that. Not crazy to say that. He is 31-30 after 5 games. If you're Baylor football, you're not looking to pay somebody to be 500. That's my that's my take on that. I mean, Dave Aranda needs to do that and help them get to a winning record and help them get to the glory times again. Baylor football went through sanctions. They've gone through issues, and here they are again facing what could be another head coaching change, and set the face of the program because 500 football is not it, Chris Conner, and you know that. That's how people get fired.
How much does it hurt him that the losses have been close and still the defense? Like the first game he goes, Auburn, hey, they get blown out 38-14, but then they bounce back. They beat SMU. They beat Sanford. Then again, they lose at Arizona. They lose to Arizona State at home in a squeaker, 27-24. They bounce back, beat Oklahoma State, beat Kansas State, and then this last game, again, their defense can't stop, a running nose. They lose 42-36. Another heartbreaker where the game ends on an interception after they get the ball back on a, onside kick.
I don't think I
What's
don't think
the
I don't think
expect?
it does. I don't think it does much for me. I mean, a loss is a loss for this one, man. I think it's tough. I think it's tough to say he saved his job because he lost close one. I think you either win or you don't, especially in the Big 12, especially when you get paid so much endorsement money. That's the tough part. I think that's a big tough part for that program.
How much is it worse so that it's like the close games you lose because either coaching or the players discipline? It's something where you look like, how the hell this is now you've had this program for this is your 6th year. How can you not fix this?
No, I agree. I agree. It's tough because you feel like you've recruited the right players to play in your schemes. You feel like you've done enough to where the Baylor program should be consistently good. The problem is they play down to the teams that they're playing against, and to me, that is a coaching problem. It's all about the chemistry and the culture for a program when it comes to playing down or playing up in games. Right? We see that with if you look at the pro levels, we see that with the Cowboys a lot. If you look at college, we saw it with Texas for a long time. And so I compare that in Baylor's situation, right? Baylor needs to either have a culture where people have to play to your style of football. And I think on offense, you see that a lot. They can put up points, but on defense, it never matches up appropriately. There's always some line issue, and injuries have not helped him either. Injuries have not helped him either. So to me, though, you got to get through them.
Final 5 games at Cincinnati, UCF, Utah, at Arizona, at Houston. Again, if there's some people who will say, "Hey, we can still win all 5 games." We got Sawyer Robertson. That guy can just sling it. Hey, do you see what he did against SMU? He does that. We are in business. Realistically, though, what is the record that you're expecting? And is this sort of a last stand for Dave Aranda if, heaven forbid, they go 1-4 and and Baylor's going, what the living hell happened to the season?
Absolutely what I think they might do. They might go 2-3, but they probably will go. I'll just call it 2-3. I think they end up beating Arizona. I think they end up winning against UCF. But I don't know if they win in Cincinnati this week. I don't know if they can win with Utah coming unless that's a homecoming game. Again, I have to look at it. Um, they will lose against Houston unless, like I said earlier, that ends up being that game they play upset. So 2-3 realistically for me would be it.
If he does lose his job, and we see a lot of jobs that are opening this year, how good is the Baylor, job? Is it good enough where it maybe can beat out, let's say, Arkansas, Virginia Tech? Are they a little bit downer on the pecking order? Like, if you're Baylor, what should be realistic expectations of like who we could get it for a coach in terms of where we fit with the rest of the coaching jobs?
As far as replacing him at Baylor, who that would be?
Yes. Like, are they a good enough, program in let's say situation where they could go, hey, you know what? We could take a swing at James Franklin, maybe able to land it. Hey, you know what? We can maybe take a swing and get John Gruden. Like, is this a program where coaches look and go, we got some pieces. This is a good place for us to go.
I think so. I think there's a ton of talent. I mean, the prestige is there at Baylor, right? They've won a national championship. They have the endorsers and boosters for the club. The chemistry and culture is there. Dave Aranda fit in. He went right into Baylor culture. It's not like going to Texas State or going to UTRGV or going to some of these other programs that aren't established as well. This is an established former national champion program within the last decade, right? It is a good football school in Texas. There's gonna be a lot of people who want to come and coach here at Baylor, right? Some up and comings who want to make a name for themselves, and some Hall of Famers that may want to come and get one lost hurrah here at Baylor. Now you're going to have to bring in students from the transfer portal with you. You're going to have some connections when it comes to the recruiting pipeline, but it's not hard to do that with Texas, California, Oklahoma, Florida, Texas. A lot of kids come from those states. A lot of kids come and play football for them. And Baylor's one of those top schools. So I completely expect whoever comes in next, if Dave Aranda's out this year, I expect them to come in, fit right in like what goes into a shoe, and play great football. My last take, Chris Connor, my last take for last call is that Baylor football will not bounce back as a program for at least half a decade. That's my hot take. Last call for last call.
Oof.
Baylor football will not be around in any sort of relevant conversation for at least half a decade. That's my last call though.
That's rough, but we're gonna end this on a positive note, and that is probably right now the greatest Disney-like story in all of college football. and even you, if I pitch this to you during the preseason, you go, Chris, you've been watching Disney Channel and Hallmark too much. Just stop this silliness. That this unknown high school kid who walked on to a college program, then it wasn't even good enough to start sometimes in high school. Yeah, he's gonna then after a redshirt year just win the starting football job, be the hottest maybe redshirt freshman in all of college football, throw 13 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, pass for 1,500 yards, complete 67% of his passes, and have Division I powered, SEC schools going, we're gonna steal that kid in transfer portal. But that is Drew Mestamaker. This is too good to be true, right, Ernest? This is just some bullshit story that we've heard. He's not that good, or is this one of those guys where it's like it is literally the diamond, the rough, the needle in the haystack? That one guy that just we have no idea where he came from, but here he is now.
If you haven't watched Mestamaker play, shame on you. Go to YouTube. All you got to do is type in Mest, and it comes in. You can see some of the highlights of this kid. Remind the people, Chris Connor, where did he play football in high school?
Yes, he played in Vandergrift High School in Austin, Texas.
He played in Austin, Texas at Vandergrift, and I'll tell you this right now: Vandergrift is actually no cupcake school. That's one of the best schools in high school football. Not a nothing school, but Messamaker was a prodigy there. He had some character issues that were questioned, and he ended up with himself here at UNT, and he has played remarkable this year. Highlight reel, and a very good character in my opinion. I don't think that can be questioned anymore. I'm really glad I saw this as the last topic for tonight's show, and I was really glad you brought it up because Messamaker, even here in San Antonio, Messamaker is known for some of his performances at Vandergrift and for some of his performances against San Antonio schools and the Valley schools, which is where I'm from. And I've had a lot of coverage on him. And so I appreciate the extra coverage here on Last Call. No, go look up Messamaker highlights. Kid, if they don't put a team around him, he may transfer out. That's the only thing about Messamaker is that he's going to go where he can win and win big. And so he may transfer out and follow a coach that goes maybe to Baylor, or somebody who needs a quarterback vacancy. But an absolute prodigy out of high school. I expect him to do big things in his future, but he needs to be consistent. He is raw, so it is a diamond in the rough. But I look forward to seeing what some professional coaches can do with him. As so far, he's looked really, really great. And again, go look up his highlights. It's worth it.
I was going to say the package deal for probably a lot of these programs, whether it's Florida, Penn State, they're thinking of this. Wait a minute here. We could get Eric Morris, who has now won in places where we look and laugh like, okay, he won at Incarnate Ward, which that was, that is a place where college football for a long time wasn't that good. And he turned it into a winner, including having him ranked in the top 15 his final year at Incarnate Ward. Then it takes a stint at Washington State because he follows Cam Ward over there. Then takes over North Texas, a program which has not been good. And then they are 6-1. They're ranking on the AAC, to possibly win the whole conference here. I'm gonna ask, if you're Florida, if you're Arkansas, if you're even Penn State, how much you make a call going, all right, Chad, Eric, we want you and Drew. How much do we need to throw in like a helicopter? Does Drew need like a new car? Like, give us a price and just tell us where to sign it. Like, what are the odds that both him and Drew are both gone by the end of the year? Well, that wraps it up. Unfortunately, we got to wrap this up. So once again, always love having on the show. It was Ernest Silva of Interval Lab Podcast. You can check them out every Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can just go to Interval Lab Podcast. They're all over on X, on YouTube. We come back, though. We got a lot more going on here. Only on, it's Last Call. Last Call with the alcohol. Only on the Last Call Podcast.com.